Hello, this is Ashley Davis. The grade level that I was assigned is third grade history. There are two different TEKs that I have listed on my lesson plan. But the main one that we're going to be talking about is students are expected to describe how individuals, including Daniel Boone and the Founding Fathers, have contributed to the expansion of existing communities or to the creation of new communities. So just a brief overview of my lesson. I will teach a PowerPoint that I've created. It will have each of these 6 main founding fathers. There are more that have signed the Constitution, but there are 6 main ones that are primarily the ones that we look at when we're teaching, especially in 3rd grade. So I'll go over that. We'll kind of go over the Constitution and why we have a Constitution, and then we'll talk about the founding fathers. And then the kids will get together. We'll do this as whole class. So I'll teach, they will do this, we'll do this together as a whole group. And it's a script. So it has the narrator, it has George Washington, and it has different pieces that they'll say together, and it'll kind of take them back to when the Constitution was signed and how were they thinking and what were they doing and all the things. So that'll be what we do together. And then what they will do on their own is they will create a brochure of the founding father they get to choose. So I chose George Washington. This is my example. They'll have to, have their biography of George Washington. They will have to have a quote. They will have to have pictures. They will have a portrait. I am obviously not an artist, but that's my George Washington. They will have to have key accomplishments. And it will be graded. This will be a grade. I have a rubric that we'll be using to grade. And then I also have the instructions for these students. So that is my brief overview of what we will be doing. So now to start my lesson, who remembers what the Constitution was for? Okay, so the Constitution was a document written after the Articles of Confederation failed. And the reason it failed, the Articles of Confederation, is because it was just very vague. And what I mean by vague is it didn't go into detail about how we would treat others the way they should be treated. It was just very black and white. It just didn't have a lot of rules that we could actually use. So it just failed. It just didn't go the way that it was supposed to go. So then the Constitution came, the idea came, and it is pretty much a document, and it's almost like a rule book for the United States. It tells us pretty much how people need to be treated. And there are also these things called Bill of Rights that was later added into the Constitution. But it is a list of how we should treat each other. Okay. So our number one founding father that we're going to talk about, and what I mean by founding father is it's the people who signed the Constitution. So the very first person who signed the Constitution is George Washington. Okay, he was born in 1732, and he passed away in 1799. One of the very important things to remember about George Washington was that he was our first president. He was also the first commander of the Continental Army. So he led a bunch of men to victory. So he was a leader. He was kind. He knew what to say. A lot of people trusted him and they followed him in whatever path he was going on. So he was one of the first ones. Not only was he the first president, but he was also the first one to sign the Constitution. So, and I feel like because people saw him sign it and they knew that he was trustworthy, they followed through with him. The second founding father that we're going to talk about is Thomas Jefferson. He was also a president. He was the third president of the United States. He wrote most of the words for the Declaration of Independence, which was in 1776. We'll talk about that later on in the year, but he was an important person and he knew how to write. He was really good with words. He knew how to write things in order for people to understand. So he's important. And then we have Benjamin Franklin. He was born in 1706 and passed away in 1790. He was also somebody who helped write the Declaration of Independence. Fun fact, he is the only founding father that signed all 4 important documents that created the United States. So not all of the founding fathers that we talk about have signed all of the documents, but he is one of them that did. So that is a pretty cool fact to know about him. Another founding father is John Adams. He was born in 1735 and he passed away 1826. He was the second president of the United States. He also signed the Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution. He was the person that would say everybody deserves a fair trial. Meaning if you have been, someone assumed that you did something that you may or may not have done, he is the person that says you deserve a free trial, whether you did it or you didn't. You deserve to have a trial, a fair trial at that. So he is very important in our history. Another founding father, this would be the 5th founding father that we're going to go over. His name is James Madison. He was born in 1751 and passed away in 1836. Excuse me. He helped write the Constitution and also the Bill of Rights. So like I had mentioned before, the Bill of Rights was later on added into the Constitution. Well, he was one of those people who helped write the Bill of Rights that went into the Constitution. Something to remember him by is that he is called the father of the Constitution, because he helped shape the plan for the Constitution. Our final and last 6th founding father that we will go over in 3rd grade is Alexander Hamilton. And he was born in 1755 and passed away in 1804. He fought in the Revolutionary War. Not only did he fight the war, but he also helped write the Constitution. Okay? He also helped write the Federalist Papers, which were made to convince people that the Constitution was a good idea. There was a lot of people that had speculation, like after the Articles of Confederation. Well, is the Constitution a good thing? Does it have what we need it to have? Alexander Hamilton wrote these papers that would go to everybody, and it would pretty much just explain why the Constitution was a good idea. And it would say what the Constitution had, and how it would help the people and how it was good for the United States. So it had all those things in it, and they were sent out to all the people. And I think it helps people have an idea of what the Constitution had, and that was a good thing. So now that we have talked about all the founding fathers, I have a couple questions. So after learning about George Washington, why do you think that he was a person people wanted to follow? I agree. So I think that people follow George Washington because he was a leader. He was a commander. He was the first commander of the Continental Army. People followed him. He was a leader. He was strong. He was strong-minded. He was just a person that people wanted to follow, and I think that's a good thing. And so when he was the first person to sign the Constitution, I feel like everybody lined up after him and was like, okay, let's do this. Let's sign it. Let's make a better country for ourselves and for our people. So based off of that is why I chose him as my person